Okay. So I've pulled from 3 decks for you. And the first deck is from the Mystical Shaman Oracle, and it's all ancient symbols. Many that came even before written language. And so this one is about life path. The first 3 are life path, and both spiritual and earthly journey. The second ones I drew from the Mystical Shaman Oracle, it's a mystical, or the wisdom of the Oracle. And this one I asked about relationships. And then the third one was all about healing, and it's from the Healing with Fairies deck. And it's the healing cards are things that you can do right now to continue moving forward. And when I'm done with all 9 cards, then I'll go through and I'll pull another card or 2 that'll give you either confirmation or affirmation, and kind of draw everything together, because you've got kind of a story going on here. You're gonna hear my dog. So the first card, I don't know if you're going to be able to see them, but I'll take pictures of the cards individually and show you. These first cards are from the Mystical Shaman, and these are about life path and spirituality. And the first card is the rainbow. Of course, you know what symbolism is with the rainbow and the bridge and you know, all of that. So it's about the 7 steps on a true spiritual path. So the message with the rainbow, especially in this first position, okay, just wait. You'll be able to watch the video. So, so the rainbow, in first position especially, is a really actually a very good card. This is signaling that a storm is about to come to an end. And you're being encouraged to persevere, and also to remember that it's always a bit darkest before the dawn. And so it's not suggesting necessarily that things are not good, but it is suggesting that things are not exactly as they should be, and that it's time for you to move forward and to be aware of the opportunities that are coming your way. You're encouraged not to just get lazy and turn things over and not pay attention. You're asked to be cognizant of what's going on around you. But just know that the things that can present obstacles to you and can create a little bit of dissonance in your life are actually coming to an end, and things are going to be moving forward in an exponential way, and that's physically and spiritually. So both in the spiritual realm and how you are feeling about you and the world that you're living in, and also on this earthly plane and in this realm, how you are moving forward and continuing to grow and to move forward physically, emotionally, and spiritually, is about to leap forward. You're about to be able to lay aside a lesson or two that has been learned, and you don't have to live that lesson anymore. You're going to be able to let go of some things that no longer serve you. And then the second card, and that's a very good card, but the second card that you got was the drum. And the drum, interestingly enough, is what connects you to nature. The wood connects you to the trees, and the the skin connects you to the animals, and it's about nature and being back in tune with it. And the beat of the drum is the heart of the universe. That's what it's all about, symbolism and being connected on a very spiritual level in order to get through the things in your life that are not spiritual, to get through the physical realm in a way so that the world doesn't rob you of your joy and your peace. And it's a beautiful card. But this card, when this card comes up, you're being strongly encouraged to take the next bold step. Interestingly enough, the first card was all about the rainbow and the bridge. That you're coming. A storm is ending, and you're about to move into a new thing. And this is a new space, as it were. And then you get the drum card, and the drum card is telling you to take a leap of faith and to move forward. The example that it gives is this: now is not the time to push against the river, to kind of go with the flow. Once you jump in and you allow the river to take you where it goes, you're going to be exactly where you're supposed to be, and you're going to start recognizing truths for what they are. You're going to start seeing things in a more objective and honest way. Interesting, considering the conversation that we just had. You're encouraged with this to grab your tools and your courage and allow yourself to be carried by the rhythm of what is actually essential in your life. And that card goes quite nicely with that first card. And then the third card that you got was the journey. And this is just such a beautiful card. And these cards, I don't know that I could have chosen, just because these are just randomly pulled off the top. I don't know that I could have found 3 cards that would fit you better. This one is all about stepping outside of the boundaries of your life as you know it. It's not really it's not a holiday. It's not calling you on vacation. It's about going on a pilgrimage. This is about a personal journey, a spiritual journey. It's one of those situations where you're going to go on this journey, but there's no path, there's no maps, there's no signs marking the way. You just got to jump in. And as said, your second card, the drum is asking you to just go with the flow, to follow the path that you're led on, and to be, you're being asked to summon up a lot of courage and a lot of faith with these cards. But the message with these 3 cards is that you are exactly where you're supposed to be, and that you are on the right path. The next 3 cards are going to talk a lot about what the path that you're on, actually. But you are headed in the right direction spiritually, and you are being encouraged to allow your spiritual path to lead you into maybe some unmarked trails as relates to your earthly life. So, in general, the basic message is the storm is almost over. You're about to move forward by leaps and bounds, exponentially, and you're asked to reconnect with Earth and be very in tune spiritually and paying attention to the signs and the messages that are coming to you, because there's great rewards in that. And then remember that the journey isn't always it's not necessarily fun or restful, but it's absolutely worth it. So that's the first message as regards to how your spiritual path is going to help you through this next thing. Now, what's interesting about that is you're going to need all of that strength as it comes to the 3 cards from the Wisdom of the Oracle. So your first card with this, and I'm going to read these cards to you from the deck because I don't think I can say them any better, and I want you to see how poignant they are, just based on just what you've told me about yourself today. So the first card you got was orphaned, but you got it in reverse. And keep in mind that when cards come in reverse, it doesn't mean that something is wrong or they're bad or that you're going to get bad news. That's not true at all. In fact, what it means is that you're getting extra encouragement and extra guidance to keep you on path. And remember too, it's very important that you remember that you are always co-creating the world that you live in with spirit. And when things get a little bit confusing or a little bit hard, or when you're resisting and pushing against the current, that your guides are always there to help you. Spirit is there waiting for you to ask for help, and that's very important. So the orphaned card, the general essence of this card is all about a sense of loss and abandonment, uncertainty about where you belong, recognizing that you don't fit in, all of those things that come along with a sense of abandonment. But I'm going to read to you what these come with. This comes with a general message, an essential meaning, an oracle message, and then it comes with a relationship message, a prosperity message, and then it comes with a protection message. And when you get it in reverse like that, you get the protection message and none of else matters. But I'm going to read this to you about this orphaned card, and I think you're going to find this interesting. The shadow side of this card speaks to the essence of abandonment. Perhaps you feel a need to remain apart because intimacy is too threatening. It also warns against creating inappropriate family structures in order to conceal old wounds. I think you need to hear that again. Perhaps you feel the need to remain apart because intimacy is too threatening. It also warns against creating inappropriate family structures in order to conceal old wounds. It's time to address the unhealthy alliances you formed and make a decision to heal the past. You will not be abandoned by the world if you can't claim yourself as a whole. Not all relationships are dysfunctional, and not all of them will disappoint you. Don't abandon yourself. You can connect to others in a healthy way once you recognize your patterns and consciously choose to interrupt them. Life wants to love you. Let it. I think the message with that is very clear. Whether or not your sexual preferences are healthy or unhealthy, this is speaking very specifically to your marriage, and also to how you view yourself and your place in a relationship. When you place yourself in a position as a witness and you allow someone else to come in and do something that you are perfectly capable of doing yourself, you relegate and delegate yourself to a place of second-class citizenship. And you put yourself in a place of being unworthy. And I feel very strongly that the reason you do that is because you don't feel like you deserve it. And I told you, even before I pulled the first card, that I think when you are in a healthy place, you aren't going to want to watch someone else with the woman that you love. And when you are with someone, you're going to recognize that you deserve that type of a relationship. It promises you that not all relationships are dysfunctional, and they're not. And they're certainly more to life than being a spectator. So I hope you will listen to that a little bit, and remembering your first three cards that you're about to embark on a new journey. And I feel very strongly that part of that journey is you coming to love yourself enough to recognize your own value and your own beauty. You are a child of spirit, and you're the only one that we have. And that makes you invaluable. It makes you priceless. You need to see yourself as the gift that you are, and recognize that you deserve to be whole. We are creatures of desire, and we need need that. But we don't need it from everybody, and we sure as hell don't need it watching other people do it. And I'm not suggesting that voyeurism is wrong. I have no moral opinion one way or the other about how people choose to satisfy themselves sexually. This is about intimacy and about loving yourself enough to allow yourself to be loved by someone else with the amount of power and strength that you have. Someone able to love you the way you love others. You love with your whole heart, and you deserve to be loved by someone else with their whole heart, and you're not allowing that to happen. And when I told you earlier that you have robbed your wife of the opportunity to be loved that way as well, it's just as poignant and just as significant that you're robbing yourself as well. So is the answer for you to create that intimacy with your wife, or is it are you supposed to leave her and find someone else? That's not for me to answer, but you definitely are shortchanging yourself and those around you, because being a very spiritual person and a spiritually connected person, that when you are at your best, that you are a gift to others. And when you're not at your best, you rob them of that blessing and of the blessings that you are when you are living authentically. And your strength and your power and everything about you that makes you a gift to others is so much stronger when you are living authentically. And I can tell you right now, I don't care how long you've had these fantasies or how long this has been part of your mindset, but I can tell you right now, it is not who you are at your core. It's your compromise to create something that you don't think either you don't deserve or that is impossible for you. And neither one of those things are true. Remember, too, that limits are always self-imposed. And it's important that you not create those types of limits. And that's exactly what you're doing. You say, and it was very poetic of you to say, that the two of you ended up getting together because you were being human and decent and kind to each other, and that you're best friends and all that as well is good. But really what you were doing is you were both making choices based out of fear and not out of love. And we are creatures of love. We were created in love. We are creatures of love. And we are at our best when we are able to love. And that's not where you are yet. And I think when we go back to the shaman cards that you got first, that's the journey that it's talking about you becoming more than what you are and creating a life for yourself that allows you to be that blessing to other people. Now your next card was Breathe, and you got this one in reverse as well. So I'm going to read this one to you also. Breathe is all about calm down, take a breath, take a step back. Sometimes we can't see things because we can't see the forest for the trees. But when this card comes in reverse, it's got a very interesting message for you. And I'm going to read it to you again because it's in the protection mage. But this is about patience, waiting, wellness, meditation, going slowly, thinking things through, taking action rather than reacting. Those sorts of things, being conscious, making conscious choices, and slowing down so that you're not rushing through things and missing the journey that we've already been talking about. But here's the protection message for this. Inertia, laziness, and apathy are signs not of slowing down, but of decay and lifelessness. Wake up and do something to shake this off. Go outside for some air. Now, it's interesting that you're being told to get outside and get in tune with nature again, because that was your card number 2 in the first deck as well. It's card number 2 in this deck. So card number 2 is something you need to think about the angel number 2 as well. A walk in nature will remind you that all life is ensouled and magical. Get some exercise, move out of your head and into your body, and breathe in deeply. Each breath is precious. So your first card was about unhealthy alliances, inappropriate family structures, avoiding intimacy. This card is asking you to really think about that, to really contemplate the message behind the first card in this set of 3, and also as how they relate to your first 3 cards, because that spiritual strength is what's going to help you recognize, being able to listen to your gut, being intuitive, and listening to your heart, and recognizing that what you're hearing and what you're experiencing is true. And that's a very important message. Now your next card, the third card in this, which was again all about your relationships, and I find this incredibly fascinating. It's a never-ending story. Now, here's what's interesting about never-ending story. The never-ending story is very specifically about you and repeating the same patterns and the same behaviors over and over and not really seeing the lesson. So, without putting ideas in your head, I want you to take a look at your personal story. Look at yourself and look at patterns and relationships that you have with people, and also keep in mind the unfortunate alliances that were mentioned in the shaman deck. So when this card comes up, you're actually getting a message as well. And there are cards that are I call them encouragement cards, and they're kind of advice, and they're telling you this is what you need to do if you want to continue moving forward and you want to become your highest self, or this is what you need to know in order for you to become your highest self and live your best life. And then there's the reward cards, and they're the attaboys, and they're saying, "Yay, Stephen, and you're doing great, and keep going on this path, and these are the things that are going to possibly come to you as long as you follow this advice." Never-ending story is all about self-criticism, poor self-worth, poor self-esteem, poor self-image, unnecessary drama, wounded ego, that sort of thing. We know that life is imperfect and that things happen, and there's the story that's woven. And it's usually talks about hurt and loss, rejection, humiliation, self-loathing, arrogance, feeling inferior. The problem is with that story is that it's typically not true. The limiting beliefs and the patterns that we pick up based on experiences that feel negative to us are very seldom true, for a lot of reasons. They very often include other people, and other people are acting out of their own experience and their own limited understanding, and their experience is not our experience, and their path is not our path. So when they look at us and they speak to us, or they give us advice, or they criticize us, they're speaking to us based on their own personal experience, and that has nothing to do with us. And so those limiting beliefs that we create do nothing but limit us, and that's a very important thing. So what you need to understand is that it's not true. And it's just like when I said to you that your parents' inability to love was not a reflection of you. It was a very poor reflection of them. And you said that you had figured that out and that you had let it go. But have you? The cards are telling me that you haven't. There are some things that never really they never really get addressed because we don't face those things every single day. But then someday some crazy little thing that seems completely benign sets off a trigger, and we have some funny reaction to it, and And that's typically what it is. It's from something from a long time ago. What you're encouraged with this card is to recognize that none of those limiting beliefs, any of those words that come out of you about you that are negative or are based on fear, you need to know that they're not true. And they were never true. And it's very difficult to let that go, because there's always that little guy on your shoulder, talking to you, the one that says you can't do that, or that you're not capable of that, or this is all you deserve, or you don't deserve that, those sorts of things. He's there constantly, and it's what we always hear. So I want to read you a little bit about what this book says about this card. And my sky's not fun. The voice you hear is just a small, scared, conditioned part of you that got stuck in a lie, wants to protect you, and needs to be seen as a victim. Love that lost piece of you. Fear is all it knows. Distorted guidance is preventing you from being true to yourself. You are not your story, and the narrator is simply the voice of your fearful part, small and vulnerable and easily soothed. So, as relates to a relationship, I'm going to read this to you also, because it's so fitting to what you told me earlier today. This is the relationship message that comes with the never-ending story. Sometimes your heart enters into a contract with another that results in pain, not because of abuse or neglect, but for other, more complex reasons. Shame, fear of intimacy, and low self-esteem are the greatest challenges to the success of a relationship. Consider how valuable this knowledge is, however. Right now, you have an opportunity for important healing, but you must reflect on the stories you weave about love, connection, abandonment, rejection, and loneliness. Not only do you need to begin a new story, you need to forgive yourself for telling yourself the old ones. Have compassion for the part of you that believes all those narratives. None of them were ever true anyway. I think that is incredibly profound, and I want you to read back. I want you to wind this back and listen to that again as many times as you need to hear it. This, in a nutshell, is why you do what you do. It's why you think the way you think. It's why you love the way you love. And it is all connected. And I think that's incredibly important. That's why I said to you that when you find yourself in a situation where you actually believe that you are worthy of not only loving someone with your whole heart, but being loved by someone with your whole heart, what you want and what brings you joy and pleasure and happiness is going to change drastically, because what you're doing right now is defense mechanism behavior. And I think it's you may not believe me. You may say, but I really like it. You may. But it has nothing to do with love. And there's really only two emotions that every action, every thought is based on, and that's love and fear. And everything else comes off of either love and fear. And anything that we do in fear, it becomes limiting. So it's very important that you listen to that message, those middle three cards in particular. So your third cards was I asked for help in healing, and in helping you see what it is you need to do in order for you to find yourself in this place of light and love and gratitude and living a life of grace that I think is so important, and it's something that you're missing. And your first card is letting go. And letting go is all about genuine letting go. One of the things that we need to understand about forgiveness, we hear people say all the time about how I forgive, but I don't forget. And what I'm going to tell you is that if you don't genuinely forget, you don't genuinely forgive. The other thing about forgiveness, and this is something that I think is even more important, is that the thing about forgiveness is it's not just about forgiving other people for being imposing or unkind or insensitive, or for their bad parenting, or their not knowing how to be a good friend, or whatever it is. Whatever it is we're forgiving them for. We also need to forgive ourselves for allowing those things to happen. And remember also that forgiveness is never for the receiver. Forgiveness is a gift to ourselves. Forgiveness is for the person giving it. And it's very, very important that I think you in particular forgive yourself. You need to remember that everything leading up to today, you've been doing your best with what you had. And you need to forgive yourself for allowing certain things. You were where you were supposed to be when you were supposed to be there. You are who you are because of where you've been. And you were doing your best. Your best today is different than your best last week or last year or last decade or 10 minutes ago, because we are always evolving. And you know this. You're a spiritual person. You understand that we are ever evolving and growing, but a lot of the responsibility lies on us as to whether we are moving forward or moving backward. But we were never static. We are not static. We are always either moving forward or moving backward. And sometimes we feel like we're just kind of spinning our reels, but we're not. So in letting go, this card is encouraging you to genuinely forgive. Forgive any slight, anything that molded you or helped you create the limiting beliefs, especially as relates to love, because this was, that was kind of my focus with this. I asked for, on the first three cards, I wanted life path on a spiritual basis. The second three cards were life path on a relationship basis, and the third cards were healing in order to keep you moving forward again on that life path. And so that's I think a huge message, that there are still things that you need to let go, and ignoring them and not addressing them because it might be uncomfortable, or it might be scary, or it might be painful, or we're afraid that we are going to lose that which we hold on so tightly. But we do that at the cost of authenticity and being who we are supposed to be and who we are meant to be. And we all have purpose, and we all have a reason and to be moving forward. And when I said you've robbed your wife of that, you've robbed yourself of that as well. Of that, it's. You said, I remember exactly how you said it. But, the purposes of life was about, one of them was about pleasure. And I thought to myself when I read that, I don't disagree. But the interpretation of joy and fulfillment and edification and pleasure and experiencing the world in a very whole way is escaping you. And I hope you take that in the context that it's meant. But you've created a little vacuum for yourself. and love doesn't grow in a vacuum. The next card you got is new location, and new location pops up. Typically, this is talking about, it could be about your job, changing jobs, moving offices, something like that. But it's usually also, it's typically more about you physically being in a different place. Changing homes, moving to a new house, moving to a new state. I feel like this is talking more about a paradigm shift for you. And it definitely feels more spiritual than physical to me with this one. I feel a tremendous amount of energy around this card, and almost like a surge of energy, and so I feel like it's more of a spiritual move than a physical move, although a physical move is still possible because it creates the same type of energy. But the other thing, the thing that I'm being really compelled to tell you is for you to be aware of the energy and the signs and the things that are going on around you now, because there are opportunities coming your way that are going to help you move forward. You're being encouraged to be very cognizant of what's going on. And remember that you're co-creating, so it's okay to ask for help. And then your last card in this round is raising your standards. Now, what's interesting about this card is typically when we talk about raising your standards, we're talking about what we expect of other people, of situations, of jobs. This is what we tell our kids when they date somebody we don't like. This is what we say to staff when they're not doing their best, that sort of thing. But that is not what this card is about. This card is about you raising your own personal standards and what you expect of yourself and what you expect for yourself. To recognize that you are selling yourself short and you are not manifesting and creating and attracting as much as you could be because of these self-limiting beliefs that you have, the self-limiting beliefs that you have here, the self-limiting beliefs you have here, your orphan card and your never-ending story card. It's the suggestion here is that what you need to recognize is, again, and I've said this before in the last few minutes, was that you are a gift just as you are, and you are worthy of everything that you want. The things that you want can be yours, and you know how the law of attraction works, I'm sure. The encouragement with the raising your standards is that you will knock that little bastard off your shoulder that's telling you that you can't, that you don't deserve things, that this is as good as it gets, that this is how it should be, that this is the don't be ridiculous voice in your head. It's all those limiting beliefs and second guessing yourself, not following your instincts, the self-criticism. The word self-loathing keeps coming to me, but I don't feel a self-loathing of you in general. It's more about the compromises that you're making and the settling, as it were. And with this card, if you will raise your standards and recognize that you deserve the things that you want in your life. It's okay to want. And also recognize that self-care is never selfish. So taking care of yourself is paramount. It's not only is it not selfish, it's absolute. You must do it, because you're no good to no one else if you're not at your best. So, you have this tremendous and very pure love for your children, and you have a respect for your wife. But there's still a big empty space, and that empty space is all because you are selling yourself short, and you're not recognizing your own value and what you have to offer, not only to yourself but to those around you. And when you start living your life as your best self, then things are going to change drastically for you. And not only that, but you're going to become even more of a blessing to those around you. And people are absolutely blessed by you and by your presence and by the gift that you are. But by holding back and by believing those things that aren't necessarily true for you, you're kind of putting a little. It's like pulling the sun blocking shades down on the windows. You get a little. You need to be willing to share and open yourself up and be a little bit vulnerable to things, because your first three cards are telling you that you're about to embark on a journey that's going to be incredibly rewarding, but you have to have the courage to make that first step. And it's not going to happen as long as you sit back and think that this is all you're worth and this is all you deserve. And it may happen eventually, but why do it the hard way? It's like Bruce Lee said, be the water. Take the path of least resistance, follow the flow. So, you got chop wood. This card is when I read this card to you, you're gonna know why I'm chuckling to myself. But that card just popped out of the deck for you. I didn't pull it off the top. You got it right side up, but it's all about being grounded in the everyday experience, and it's funny to me because all of these cards really come down to you being better to yourself and being honest with yourself and living authentically. And then you get the chop wood card. And what's funny about that is the message with this card is of you letting go of a bunch of stuff that no longer serves you and being present and being in the moment. And we can't. There's no point in worrying about the past and old experiences, old mistakes, old things, those things that are actually still affecting you today. And not worrying about the future and the things that may never happen, but being able to really focus on what's going on in the here and now, and being cognizant of what's going on around you. And the message is that there's nothing that's nearly as important as just taking care of what needs to be taken care of right now. And the message with that, obviously, to me, is that it's you. When you talk about your relationship and with your kids, and you talk about your relationship with your wife, it's all about what you're doing for them. And again, with raising your standards, we're talking about self-care. you're encouraged with this card to realize that not everything has to be hard won. It doesn't have to be. Every minute doesn't have to be passionate. Every minute doesn't have to be, that sometimes it's the day-to-day things that make life very special. But it's about being cognizant and being in the moment. And I think by doing that, by looking at that, I think you're going to see how much you have to contribute, and you're going to be able to build on that and being able to create and see more clearly what's going on in your life. I feel very strongly that there's a little empty space in there, and you want to fill it up with the right things, and you want to fill it up with things that are edifying. And to be quite frank, and I'm not usually quite this abrupt, but I'm going to say it, watching your husband have sex with another man is not edifying. Not in the way that you are looking at that. You said something very poignant in watching, in the fantasy that you wrote to me today, and watching someone please me in a way that you're not capable. And I know what you meant when you said it, but I'm not sure you recognize the full weight of that comment and where that comes from. And I think it's very important and very poignant that when you are coming from a place of love and not a place of fear, you wouldn't be doing it. You had another card pop out. You wouldn't be doing it it wouldn't feel like service to you like it does now. I feel such heaviness. I mean, it's almost hard for me to breathe when I go back and replay some of the things that you said in there, because they're very revealing. They may not be revealing to you, but they're incredibly revealing to me. And it's heavy. It's heavy to me. I want to read to you about the blade. This is the one that I just pulled for you. It actually fell out of the deck for you. The essence of this card is the blade represents sharpness of the mind, body, and spirit. Pointing upward, it summons the power of heaven. When aimed down to the ground, it anchors the power of the heavens on earth. The blade can be a healing tool or a weapon. Yield it wisely and it will transmit power, bestow initiations, cut energetic cords from the past, or sever toxic relationships. Use it with anger and it will slash, stab, and kill. We're talking about relationships again. This is a card that just fell out for you. I hope you were getting my message without my being hurtful. So the invitation. You are invited to draw your blade and use it. It is not auspicious to hesitate, to waste time in idle talk, or to hide from the inevitable. Heaven and earth are aligned to support you in claiming your power, so take decisive action. Overcome your fear of hurting others, unsheathe the blade, and use it wisely. Your first three cards were all about a journey, about having the courage to move forward and to take action. Your second three cards were all about what's going on within you and a lack of purpose, a lack of self-worth, a lack of self-esteem. And if you try to tell me that you don't feel that way about yourself, I will agree with you, but I'm telling you, the cards are never wrong. And then your third 3 cards about letting go, a new location, and raising your standards were, again, this is what you have to do in order to move forward on that journey that you were so excited about, or that was so forcefully given to you. Then you're asked to be present and in the moment and cognizant of what's going on, and you're again asked to be brave and to move forward. So you, my friend, are going on a journey. Very much a spiritual journey, but also an emotional journey. You've been asked in 3 different cards, you were asked to get up and move about, move forward, get outside, reattune yourself with nature and with spirit. You're being asked to love yourself and to recognize the divine creation that you are, that you are worthy of the things you want in your heart of hearts. And the big message here is for you to be authentic and to be who you're supposed to be. And to create in that a life that you feel edified in, and being complete, being your whole self and who you're supposed to be, not just for others, but for yourself as well. And, and in that, I'm going to ask you to also be open to receiving. You focus a lot on giving, and what's them. With your children, it is a bit about how, because you want to spend every moment with them, but it's still about giving them what you did not get. And while you do get rewarded for that, there's still this draw and this pull that you need to be doing something for yourself, and recognizing that inappropriate alliances and relationships that are less than you deserve are going to feel selfish to you. But self-care is never selfish. And so it's about being authentic and being who you're supposed to be. So I have this other little deck, and it's called, what did I do with it? It's called Postcards from Spirit, and it's really I like to close with these. They actually look like postcards. They look like a little letter. And with this deck, I actually ask my guides to assist in this. And so I always call I call on one of the 2 most important men in my life, and that was my dad, who was my best friend and my hero, or my husband, who was my best friend and my soulmate. I see so much. I'll tell you about my relationship with my husband at some point. We were married for nearly 16 years, and 13 days short, in fact. And it was 16 years of hard work. And if there's any such thing as a soulmate, I still believe, despite our struggles and the things that we had to overcome and the obstacles that we faced, if I had it to do over again, I would do it in any minute. And I also recognize that being with him actually prepared me to live without him. And so I call on him a lot. And so if you were sitting here across the table from me, I would give this to you and let you draw your own card, and you would ask someone on the other side of the veil to answer for you. But you're not, so I have to pull the card for you. So I'm going to ask Lovey to help me with this and give you the message that Spirit wants you to have. And we'll see how it resonates. We'll see what happens. That card just fell out. Okay. Dear you, check in occasionally with yourself about your motives behind actions you plan on taking, especially when you have an end game in mind. Is the source of your motivation desire or entitlement? Maybe you're drawn to a certain path because you think it will bring you a feeling related to the outcome you seek, like safety or wholeness. Know that you will see a reflection in the outer world of the motive that drives you forward. Do you need a motive? Can you simply be pulled in the directions your soul calls you toward joy, discovery, growth, or adventure, participating in something compelling and meaningful without trying to define it? If you can step forward, surrendered to whatever Spirit has in store for you, you will be amazed at how things turn out. Check your motives, then hand them over to Spirit. Everybody here wants the best for you. Life loves you more than you know. I'll send you a picture of that too. You had a card in here. The drum, where you were specifically asked to go with the flow and quit fighting. So, there you go. Okay. If you have questions about anything or about any of the cards in particular, or if you would like me to draw some more cards for you for clarity, I'm happy to do that. But I'm going to ask you to come back and watch this video again a time or two, and take that journey of being very honest with yourself, and take this for what it's worth. You know, all I can do is give you the message. I'm just the messenger, so I'm happy to answer any questions that it might spur, but think about it and remember that you are divine and exactly who you're supposed to be. And when you can recognize that, you can move forward both physically, emotionally, and spiritually, and create that balance in your life that will allow you to continue to move forward in the direction that you're supposed to go.